This morning on BRN, AI's role in solving an age-old problem. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Lily Vittayarukskul is the CEO and founder of Waterlily. Lily, so great to see you. Thanks for joining us in the program this morning.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
I'm excited to talk about the intersection, I'm going to call it, between long-term care and artificial intelligence. But I want to take a step back. We've been talking on our network for quite some time about long-term care planning. It doesn't seem to be an easy thing for most Americans to do.
That is absolutely correct. If anything, every single American I come across finds it very hard, daunting, complex, and expensive.
Yeah, and I guess we don't know how long we're going to live. And even though we have some level of genetic understanding about of ourselves, we don't know what we're going to be inflicted with. So I would imagine that makes it quite difficult. Where does artificial intelligence come into the equation to make that easier and better?
Well, the really fascinating thing about using AI or artificial intelligence is we have built these what's called machine learning algorithms that have been trained on a lot of historical data on the entire US population, where we have over 500 million data points of tens of thousands of families that we've been following for nearly 30 years. And we track them from retirement into when they started progressively having care needs, including a long-term care event, and what exactly happened there from a financial and familial standpoint. And so essentially, by training those models, we're able to create this initial, what most folks know as intake or, intake form, where we ask some questions about the person sitting in front of us to figure out how do you look similar to the massive data set of households that we have. And we're going to then, in simple terms, tell you, well, we knew their trajectory. So we're now going to tell you what your trajectory is most likely going to look like based on those lookalike families.
How would, most Americans, when they consult with a financial planner, they may consult with a certified public accountant, some kind of a lawyer, they may consult with one of these professionals. How can they leverage, how can they, meaning the advisor, the CPA, the attorney, leverage these profiles, these tools to help their clients to the best of their ability?
By using these tools such as Waterlily, where it's AI that predicts what your future trajectory looks like, you have a much more concrete and tactical and logistical conversation rather than a lot of hypotheticals that happen today, where one, if the advisor, as a fiduciary, a financial advisor, needs to bring up long-term care as a part of the risk management of the assets. Of the assets of their clients, they have a really hard time bringing up the long-term care conversation today in a way that motivates clients to think, wow, that should be easy and straightforward enough, and that seems insightful. I want to do it. Today, the client feels, well, you just feels that it's way too archaic, it's way too vague. Why should I make an investment of hundreds of thousands of dollars into a strategy for long-term care if I don't think the numbers you give me are my own numbers? And so so unless the family already has a history of tragic long-term care cost and familial relationship damage, they're not going to be the ones proactively bringing it up, which they are still the minority. So advisors, estate planners, or CPAs today would use our system as a way of bringing up the conversation to a client that is relevant to them and also very financially advantageous for them to actually make a decision with us.
Lily, most Americans are unprepared, probably myself included, are unprepared for long-term care. We misunderstand it. We misunderstand what our needs would be. Heck, we don't even know what our needs are going to be.
That is exactly correct. And that's where you might use national averages, such as, oh, the average long-term care event for a male is this. The average long-term care event for females is, this long as well. Let's look into nursing home costs. Let's look into the cost in your particular zip code. And that's what we have today without Water Lily. And so by using our tool, you could actually know exactly what your cost is actually going to look like based on your predicted needs that you're going to have. For example, what is your likelihood of needing care, what age it'll occur at, how long your long-term care events will be, as well as hours that we expect on a weekly and monthly basis, and how those needs will kind of increase over time. And we match that to your local cost of care, based on where you live, so that it becomes very precise what that cost is going to look like. But then we take it further, which is if you know that you're going to have, for individuals, I would say, in their 50s and 60s and 70s, their long-term care cost, because of inflation, will be in the high six figures or low seven figures. And that is pretty insane for most people to wrap their heads around, because that's essentially their retirement. That's essentially all of their assets. But the fascinating thing is, by us predicting what that cost is going to look like in the future and then asking you, how are you trying to self-fund for this event? Are you looking into insurance? Are you looking into annuities or other financial products or retirement communities? We could actually model those vehicles so that you could solve for that high six figure, low seven figure risk at a fraction of that, if anything, an order of magnitude less than that.
We're talking about based on these predictive models is personalization. You talked about earlier about the intake. What does that? Can you kind of describe more of what that looks like? Like, do I have to give blood? Do I have to give a sample of something in order to take a look at my genetic underpinnings so that you can put me in the right model?
We have so much data on families. I'll give you that. Way more data than I would personally like to have, where we've been following these individuals, but we don't gather blood samples. We don't need a medical visit. We also don't need genetic information. What's actually really insightful is that with some socio-demographic information, some medical information that you know about yourself, as well as some financial information, questions that you could answer in about 3 to 4 minutes in our intake form, we could give you a pretty high degree of accuracy what your predicted cost is going to look like, because everyone over indexes on, I mean, I studied AI and genetics. A lot of people over index on, oh, genetics is the way of the future. It's going to tell you everything about this person. And that's not necessarily true. I think it's still an area of high research, but where you live has high predictive factors into what your trajectory is going to look like. How much money you have is going to have high predictive factors into what your health trajectory is going to look like. And some diagnoses that you know you already have, or if you take medications regularly, those are already incredibly predictive and non-intrusive as well, for you to just get some insights about yourself. So it is a balance of how powerful our algorithms are, but built with a beautiful user interface that is empathetic to a consumer that is just dealing with an incredibly busy life.
And let's talk about, you watch the mainstream media and they talk about artificial intelligence like it's going to take over the world. There's still a balancing act here, and maybe it will, who knows? Hopefully I'm not here for that. But in all seriousness, there's a balancing act here, right? Because you still need the human touch. You still need that advisor or someone to kind of work. Like, you can take the information, but you still need someone to work with that individual to give them empathy and the human touch.
That is absolutely correct. Where a lot of your largest financial decisions you'll ever make, buying a home, essentially investing into your 401k or purchasing life insurance, you always talk to someone in order to make that decision. And it's because you're just looking for a human mediator that you trust to make that decision with. If you were to have AI, you don't know how empathetic it is to you. And that's the issue that we have. And so that's why we work with so many professionals, like estate planning professionals or CPAs, or large majority today are wealth advisors, even care professionals in retirement communities use our software, because they already have built a relationship with the person sitting in front of them. They just need more powerful tools so that they could give more concrete insights to the person sitting in front of them and have a much more efficient and effective conversation. We're not looking to replace this human in the loop. I think they're incredibly crucial to give you that psychological peace of mind when you make these decisions, and also for them to just double check the insights, because just because we know what that cost is, there's a lot of other factors that matter. What are your preferences of how you want to age? How do you want your family members to step in for your care? Um, you might feel less risk averse to pull from your 401k versus your traditional IRA. Like, those are things where it may not make logical sense because we're human, but for us, it's about discovering that psychological safety in each person.
I mean, this is, I think, the quintessential issue I don't want to be over dramatic. Quintessential issue of our time: longevity, aging, and what societal needs will be for each one of us. Lily, we're going to have to leave it there. It's so great to see you. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, at our website. And your subscription helps support all this great BRN content. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving. Don't forget, roll with the changes.